Do you have any questions about speaking?
Yeah, so you could have working with them and she's going to slides for us. We're going to go over to
Yeah, beautiful. And we always also like it can be intimidating to come up with cameras and stuff to answer questions. It's all good. It's like you don't know, you don't know, just like say pass and they're not.
All right.
Or you can defer. Yeah, or yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to interview them.
I thought you were supposed to supposed to get Senator Charleston's project here. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to run the bathroom real quick. I'll do it real fast.
In the system, but you're not in the system, but then All right.
Oh my god, I didn't go long
I call this meeting into order at 4:02 p.m. We're gonna get started with the roll call. Senator Bassnett. Here. Senator Hashimoto.
Here.
Senator Chimezie. Senator Chimezie. Senator Carlson.
President's proxy.
Senator Roberts.
Here.
Senator D. Schaefer.
Here.
Senator Hawk. Here. Senator Hansen.
Here.
Senator Osman. Senator Osman.
She's not on Zoom.
Senator Dustin.
Here.
Senator Saha. Senator Saha. Senator Spears.
Here.
Senator Nguyen.
Yeah.
Senator Uzefa. Senator Uzefa. Senator Wing.
Here.
Senator Pina.
Present.
Senator Nowak.
Howdy.
Senator Flynn.
Here.
Senator Hoffwood.
Here.
President Stiff.
Here.
Vice President Silverslow.
Here.
Speaker Khan here. All right. So on the agenda, we have presentations first, but just because we have a long list of presentations today, I'm gonna move open forum before presentations. Just so if we have anyone here just for open forum, they don't have to wait for long. So if I have anyone for open forum, I can take them at this point. Vice President Jones.
Thank you. I want to use this opportunity to give you a heads up and a personal invitation. Next week, the university will be hosting 4 finalist candidates for our provost and vice president of academic affairs position here at the university. We have set aside a specific time for each one of those candidates for you as student leaders to interact with those candidates, ask questions and answer questions that they may have about the student experience here at the university. You can learn more specifics about
Doing our fair share. Our current overall operating budget for all of athletics is about $5.52 million, and our current fee support is about $1.214 million. So when you look at the proportion of the resources, we're providing about 78% of our total budget through ticket sales, corporate partnerships, fundraising events, donor support, and institutional support.
So what are we proposing? We're proposing to you guys to support for an increase to $4.21 per credit hour, or a 5.25% increase. This would only be an extra 21 cents per credit hour, which would result in about $2.52 a semester, or $5 total a year, which means that we're not asking for too much on our end. So
Yeah, when you think about it, it's about a cup of coffee at Starbucks, less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So this is a lot of information on this slide, but it's mainly to compare the 2 fiscal years from 2023, so what we project in 2022. You can see a decrease in our credit hour base, obviously the increase to the student fee, but it sits us at about $30,000 increase in total student fee support.
sorry. To touch on what Jackson said, we are asking for about a 21-cent increase with the enrollment dropping about 2.65%, which would result in only a 2.46 increase, or around $30,000. And although we are sensitive to the current budget environment, including a focus on affordability, We hope for this request of 5.25% increase will be considered in the context of last year's athletic fee freeze, since we did not get an increase last year. An example of this is that we travel a lot for golf, and we're not staying at we're not traveling to places like Florida and Arizona and California like every year or every, I don't know, season. We're playing in places such as like Arkansas. Last fall we went to Arkansas and it was a 28-hour drive round trip. And then we went to Missouri about 4 days after that, which was a 16-hour round trip. So it's difficult to budget all of that. Yeah,
and then on top of that, like, athletics is getting hit really hard by the rising inflation costs. And you know, a simple example of this is like our Subway is a super common meal for Maverick athletics, right? It's super easy, it's somewhat healthy, and you don't want to be eating horribly on the road. And a $5 footlong sandwich is now $7.25, right? The baseball team is 40 people that we travel with, right? So that increase of $2.25 is about $90 per trip per meal that you're taking, right? So if we have 20 games, that's $1,800 that we're increasing in just that couple meals. So it really hits athletics hard, and that's just one of the 20 sports. Next slide. So we've been asked to give a specific example of where the money would come, or where the money would go and be spent. And we touched on inflation costs, and it's really hitting our transportation costs like enormously. The estimated inflation from our transportation is about 10%, and that additional cost would be about $30,000. As we talked about in the last two slides, we're proposing an increase that would accommodate for this $30,000 rise in inflation. So, just a real life example of something that happened this year from the rising costs in transportation. Our Maverick soccer team that is usually really, really good. I know they've made it to numerous national championship tournaments in the past couple of years. They went down to Central Missouri, and their busing costs doubled by the time they went back to Central Missouri 3 months later for the regional tournament. So they went down there at the beginning of the season, and it doubled 3 months later. Next slide. So we wanted to thank you guys for being a huge part of our success. We really couldn't support athletics without the fee, and you guys have made a huge impact in obviously bringing successful athletics, and the huge weekend we had last weekend with track and field, women's track and field winning a national championship, and then 2 wrestlers winning national championships as well. So now we'll open up the floor to any questions you guys have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will take my first question from Vice President Severslow.
Thank you. First of all, thank you guys for coming out and presenting to us. It was really helpful to see your guys' examples and kind of get a better sense. What I wanted to ask, and this might be a better question for someone else, but could you remind me what last year's proposed rate was? I know you stayed flat at 4, but what were you asking for last year?
I think we asked for a 2% increase. And
could you give me the cent amount?
Yes, last year's fee increase was, we were at $4 and the request was 2%. The fee was frozen last year, so we remained at $4.
Okay, so so you're asking for a 21-cent increase this year. Do you remember how much cents it was last year?
It would have been an 8-cent increase last year. As they provided some context, the 21-cent increase this year, 5.25%, averaged over 2 years with a freeze, and a 5.25% increase this year would be over 2 years, 2.625% over the 2-year period.
Got it.
Each year.
Thank you.
Senator Roberts.
Once again, thank you for your presentation. The one thing that I'm wondering about is, I know that you mentioned that there's some breakdowns by sports. What are all of those breakdowns by sports?
I think probably that's pretty complex. We do have a student fee budget per sport, and we would be able to upload that, Emmy, in our documents area for your review.
And then again, for all the documents, for all the pieces are on Teams. Senator Flynn?
Hi. Again, thank you for coming in. My question's sort of related. At one point in the presentation, it was mentioned that students fund 75% of their own education. Is that them paying out of pocket, or is that financial aid?
I couldn't give you a specific breakdown, and we were referencing our Division II athletes. In addition to the 18 Division II programs, we do have 2 Division I programs in men's and women's hockey, and those student athletes are on closer to a full scholarship support through intercollegiate athletics. But the 25% equivalency or self-funding in turn, 75% on their own educational costs, was the number of athletic scholarships that we offer to our Division II programs divided by the total number of student athletes we have in those Division II programs. So it's an average. We have some that are on no aid, that we call a walk-on, that are just pursuing their passion for that sport and playing on no scholarship, to others that may have more than 25%, but that would be the average. Again, total scholarships divided by the total number of Division II student athletes.
So that's 25% of their education then funded by athletics?
By intercollegiate athletics, and they would be responsible for funding the other 75%. I think we had a nice conversation on the way over here, and we were talking about, like so many other students that are feeling the burden of rising costs in higher education, a lot of you may have part-time jobs. Our student athletes, I don't know if they call it work or play, but they are limited to 20 hours of participation in intercollegiate by NCAA compliance bylaws each week. But that's the equivalent of a part-time job. I think everybody would agree a full-time job is 40 hours. They're devoting 20 hours as their commitment to intercollegiate athletics. So a part-time job and being responsible for self-funding 75% of that, whether it's aid or self-generated. Many of them have another part-time job on top of that. So, you talk about 14-hour, 16-hour bus trips and 20 hours a week commitment to as a student athlete, and then balancing that with a part-time job. It's, I think, rather amazing that we have, over 40% of them on the dean's list.
Thank you.
Vice President Silverstal?
Can you, I'm still phrasing mine, can you?
Do you have
Something to
another
add to
question,
what,
Senator Roberts? Senator Roberts, go ahead.
something to add to what Kevin said. He talked about we're capped at 20 hours of CARA, but I know for both golf and baseball, right, we have a doubleheader, and when we have a doubleheader, we have to be there for 8 hours at the field, right? You might have a doubleheader on Sunday and then a doubleheader on midweek, and you're there for 8 hours. So in reality, you're not putting 20 hours in because those doubleheaders only get counted for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you're putting in 30 hours that week instead of the average 20.
And an average golf meet takes about 5 hours, and you have about 3 days so that's about 15 hours that you're counting for golf meets as well.
Yeah, and that's just a compliance standard that, it's not finagling the numbers or anything, with because a basketball contest is shorter than a baseball contest, so the NCAA just directs us to count any competition as 3 hours, whether it's a doubleheader in baseball or a golf meet or a hockey game. Everything competition related counts as 3 hours.
Thank you. Senator Roberts?
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I understood something correctly. When it came to the transportation dilemma element here of the 30,000 more, is this increase only meant to cover that transportation increase, and none of it will be going to the women's track team, so on and so forth?
Well, again, I think in the past we've been asked to provide a very specific example, and this one sort of jumped off the page. We've got a lot of financial budget challenges that won't be entirely covered by the proposed fee increase. This is a very specific example of where a 5.25% increase yields a net amount of an additional $30,000 in support. So that's one way that we can apply it directly to solve one known budget challenge in the coming year. But there will be additional budget challenges, and as Jackson talked about, doing our fair share. About 78% of the athletic budget is funded outside of this fee. We'll have our challenges in additional fundraising and seeking out additional corporate sponsorships, increasing ticket sales to meet some of those additional budget challenges.
And I think another thing to go along with what you're asking, so that money, that $30,000, is accommodating for the inflation costs of all transportation across Division II athletics. So that money will go to the women's track team, but it'll go to their transportation to go to meets and that type of thing. Does that answer it a little bit better?
Sort of.
Go ahead with the follow-up question. I think he's correct in that everybody's got, except some of our smaller roster teams like tennis and women's golf and men's golf that don't travel by charter bus, they'll all see some of this increased fee going to cover their additional transportation costs on a per team basis.
Yeah. So then the follow-up question that I have from that is, do we exactly have the plan of how this additional $30,000 is going to be used, or do we not have that plan yet?
I think we could break that $300,000 overall transportation budget down into sport specific, and we could respond back with that answer about, you know, how are teams traveling and which teams are traveling more than others, and sort of give you an allocation of where that $300,000 transportation budget lies, and then by default, each budget with some element of charter transportation would theoretically increase by the 5.25% to cover that inflation that they'll experience next year.
Yeah, I'm going to yield to Joey.
Okay, so I think what the question is trying to get at is that $30,000 set on it has to go to transportation, or can it be moved to cover other areas where problems are occurring within the intercollegiate athletics fee? Like, theoretically, could it go to helping the women's track team outside of just transportation things?
Yeah, I think, you know, I might defer to Tim Marshall here. I think he's tried to explain in the past that we look at the very generous $1.2 million in support in aggregate, and not at sort of the granular level that you guys are asking about now. But we've also been sort of put on the spot of specifically what would you do with the money that comes from a fee increase. And in this case, we're able to provide a very specific example. You know, will it work exactly like that? As I mentioned, we've got, you know, budget issues you know, across the $5.8 million that are well in excess of a $30,000 transportation issue. So if it would be, you know, the preference of the student government that not all of that increase be directed towards assisting with the known issue in transportation costs, we're very open to that discussion.
Thank you. President Stiff?
Thank you again for coming in. I want to add, it is not our prerogative to tell you how to use that money, so don't know to answer your last question. I guess my question is just like, what will if this referendum like didn't pass as far as the 5.25, how will that affect your program overall? What are going to be the visual effects of like what will have to be cut inevitably?
Yeah, and I think we faced a very similar question last year, and we were prepared with a response that. You know, we said that probably one of our strategies would be, you know, we talked about the popularity of hockey. Yeah. And unfortunately, with a 0% increase last year, we had to look at what kind of gap that created in our budget, and we had to reduce the number of student tickets that we were distributing from 800 to 550. And we said, you know, that's going to be our pathway for kind of backfilling against that budget freeze. And we had to take those 250 tickets and sell them as season tickets to kind of backfill for that, you know, revenue loss that we didn't have with student fee support last year with the freeze. And so certainly we don't want to go any farther with reducing student access opportunities to hockey, because clearly it's very popular. If you've got 500 tickets snatched up in 17 minutes, we don't want to make that an every year strategy and say, if we can't get the kind of student fee support that we're asking for, we're going to have to take drastic measures and further reduce student access. But that is obviously a high demand sport for us. We were very readily able to sell those reclaimed student tickets as season tickets and backfill against that fee increase freeze last year. I hope that we don't need to employ a strategy like that, but we would have to get creative about other ways to self-generate. You know, we talk about doing our fair share and self-generating 78% of our budget. We'd have to try to get more creative, but I would say it's a hard-working crew over there, and you know, we've kind of expanded our level of support through ticket sales and corporate partnerships to the point there's not a lot of low-hanging fruit out there, and so if we were to experience an increase less than that we're asking for, we'd have to find a way to try to back for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Seversal, please.
So I kind of have like a 2-question in one. So my question is kind of gets more to the philosophical strategy of funding, because like I noticed when you bring up this 30,000 number, from what you're describing, it doesn't seem like that's enough to self-sustain like for the next few years, right? So is your strategy to kind of continue to come back and, you know, ask for slow, progressive budget increases, or are we to like understand that this 30,000 is enough to like keep steady for a while? I'm just trying to understand.
No, I think, you know, it would be our strategy to potentially be coming back and looking for a similar level of increase every year until we can join our peers that are funded at $4.58. You know, certainly we contemplated asking for a larger increase. We are really kind of plugged into affordability and understanding that we're coming out of a pandemic, and there's a lot of sensitivity to the current budget environment. Again, as they mentioned, it's 21 cents. You know, about $2.50 a semester, $5 total, but. You know, we kind of again contemplate. No, this is putting a Band-Aid on sort of a turnip type situation. You know, it's we're having a difficult time balancing the intercollegiate budget. Going for a fee more aligned with our peers. We talked about being 43 cents below the average, 58 cents below the maximum. An additional 43 cents, which would have been over a 10% increase, more than twice what we're asking for, or a 14.5% increase to get to the maximum. Now you're talking some real serious dollars. $30,000 will stem the flow with the transportation dilemma that we identified, but a 10% increase to get to the average, that would have brought in another $129,000. And probably would have allowed us to maybe not come back and ask for an increase next year. An increase to the maximum of 14.5% would have brought in $190,000. And we couldn't have come back next year. We would have been at the max. But we are sensitive to the affordability. Our student athletes are students too. They've got to pay their university bill just like you do. And we talked about self-funding 75% of their costs. So we're sensitive as student athletes to trying to keep costs down. But we hope that you'll understand the context with a freeze last year and the transportation dilemma that we're facing next year of why we felt a 5.25% increase was justified.
Okay, great, thank you.
Senator Roberts?
Who are your sponsorships and how much are you receiving sponsorships?
I'm gonna, at this point, I'm gonna see if we could upload that as well.
Oh, that's fine.
Some of it is a little bit, some of the contracts call for non-disclosure, they have non-disclosure agreements, and so their contracts are in some contexts private, but this is a public university, so really anybody through Freedom of Information Act could open up those sponsored contracts. So I think we'll try to be as transparent as possible about who our sponsorships are. But we're bringing in roughly $600,000 through corporate partner and sponsorship agreements.
Thank you. And then once again, if we have any further detailed questions, you guys are more than welcome to reach out to Kevin and our student leaders. Other than that, thank you for coming in and joining us today.
Let me just make one final comment. Again, it's been a super successful hockey season. We hope you'll come out Sunday afternoon to the selection show out at Buffalo Wild Wings and see where the Mavericks are going to the regional tournament. And I guess on that note, it's likely myself and Tim Marshall will be traveling with the team next week. We don't know where or when, but it may make for a tricky opportunity on Wednesday in terms of this kind of dialogue. So if you do have questions between now and then, it would be good. I think Scott or another representative of Intercollegiate Athletics will be available for the Wednesday meeting, but we may have to join you from parts unknown, Upper New York or Pennsylvania or maybe out in Colorado. But we'll try to be part of the presentation next week, but it's very likely that we'll be traveling to the regional tournament for hockey. So, thank you again.
Travel safe.
Thank you.
Next on my list, I have Student Union Board. Once again, we will have up to 20 minutes for this presentation, and then after that, we'll open the floor for questions.
My name is Zahara, and I'm the chair.
My name is Emma Gabbard, and I'm the vice chair.
All right, next. All right, our CSU board members includes me, Emma, and we have two board members, Sean, who is also a senator, and Jacob.
And then we have the units within the CSU. So these are the people that we met with for deciding this budget. So we have Mark, who's over here, Patrice, Teresa, who's the business manager. In operations, we have James, and then Amanda is our building events coordinator. Kyle is our bullpen coordinator. Lenny is the communications coordinator, and Ryan is the technical board. We can go next. Okay, so.
Can you guys see?
Let me see. Okay, so this is a breakdown of comparing this year to next year, so 2021, 22, yes.
Can I request you guys to speak a little bit louder?
Yeah, sorry. So, so we have 2021, 2022 over here, and then 22, 23 over here. So for our revenue, we have the student fee assessment, so we plan on receiving...
Can I request you to speak using the mic because people on Zoom are having difficulty hearing you?
Got it, yes. I'm gonna pull it up on my, because it's like a little small.
Yeah, the mic detaches.
Take it off.
Yeah.
Oh, I can take this off?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have the student fee assessment is how much we plan to take in. So that's that 3 million versus the 3.2 million up there. And then for our expenses, so some of the differences we see here for line 16, the Minnesota State Fund Assessment, that is a fee that we pay Minnesota State to manage our money, I guess. And so we have a decrease from 20,000 last year to just under 12,000 this year, and that is because of line 27, which is our debt service. So last year we had that $873,000 for debt, and this year you can see it is drastically reduced to $194,000, and that is because we paid off a 20-year bond that was used to do the south entrance. So then we have our deferred maintenance. We decided to put $250K in there, and I'll let Z explain.
Oh, yeah, so we added an extra $250,000 for maintenance, just to prepare for the future in case if we have any unexpected expenses. For example, next year we're planning to do a window project, which is going to cost $1.2 million to replace those windows that have been here for 50 years. And then, as you can see, some of the things are still the same, like fuel and utilities, materials went down. Employee service went up by almost $100,000, and that's due to the minimum wage increase, to student wages, and we do have, the CSU employs about 70 students, and also that increase is because of the full-time employees' salary and fringe going up too.
Yes. Okay, so then on the bottom here we have the overall. So we are recommending a decrease of a decrease of 3.8%. So currently the fee is $10.78 for credit, and then our proposed is $10.37. So yeah, we are asking for a decrease just because we had a lot of debt eliminated, which is super nice, so we can give some money back to the students.
All right, so here is to show you the changes. Total staff salary plus rent went up by 2.4 increase, and the total student health went up by 23.9, and that huge increase is because the changes in the minimum wage. Non-salary excluding student health is down, negative 38.9, and that's because we eliminated the bond that we were paying. So overall, expenses went down by negative 7.2.
All right, and then here we have a pie chart explaining how this works here. So for rent, the CSU charges rent for different entities on campus, like the bookstore, the computer store, the bank, Affinity Plus Credit Union, the Korean National Center, things like that. So that makes up 56.23% of the self-generated revenue fund. And then the commission is our food. So 28.49%, we get a cut of the sales that are made at, for food services. And then, games and rec, so that's 6.16%, so that is when people pay for billiards or bowling and such. And then interest is at 4.10%. Other revenue is at 5%. That would be for something like if someone wants to have their wedding here, we obviously charge them to use the facilities. Go next.
Okay, so estimated overall budget, our revenue matches exactly our expenses because we are a nonprofit. So that will be $3,894,936 for the revenue that includes student fees, self-generated revenue, rental income, and interest income. And our expenses are salaries, revenue fund expenses, bond payment, and utilities.
And then for the trend in student fees, we'll see here, so for the year 18-19, it was at $10.99, so that was an increase, and then the following year, it went down to $10.78. It has stayed that fee for the last couple of years, and this year we are doing a decrease, which is super nice. So it'll go down by 41 cents, which is a decrease of 3.8%.
So last time, this is a recommendation. We're asking a decrease from last year. We'll go down from $10.78 to $10.37, and that is for credit. It will be a decrease of 41 cents. Changes will be minus 3.8, and student fee assessment will go down by 6.4%. And we just want to mention that the CSU are really good at being physically conservative, thanks to Mark, but we do really look after the students and their family. Any questions?
Thank you. I will start my questioning period with Senator Flynn.
Hi. This might be a little bit beyond the board itself, but is there any chance that a decrease would affect the number of hours available to student workers?
Goodness, I'm going to hand that off to Mark.
No.
Cool.
There we go.
Is that a commitment?
I can put it in writing if you want me to.
It's good enough.
You can't survive without students.
Do we have any further questions? Any questions? Any questions over Zoom? All right, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
All right, last on my list, I have IT Solutions. Brian, is there anything you would like to share on the screen?
I'll be sharing the screen.
Awesome.
I guess what you were saying.
morning, everybody. Okay, hi, my name is Brian Schneider, and I am your Assistant CIO and Director of Tech Services. And what have we been up to? We've been up to a lot of things, but in respect of time, I'll put this presentation in the Teams folder so that you can review it later. The Tech Fee Committee has been meeting and looking at the technology being used throughout the university. And we've been focusing in on the services that are provided through Tech Fees. And what we're going to come up with is recommendations or things that we're going to be working on next year of ways that we can improve our services and position the technology for students that are going to be coming here in the future. So after budget season is over, we're going to present those recommendations to you for feedback and a vote. So you can look for that in a couple of weeks. All right, looking at the budget. Our budget is a lot more complex than some of the other budgets that you've looked at because we're an entire division, we're not necessarily a program. But our main source of funding is the general fund, which is a combination of tuition and state allocation. So that funds most of the budgets and salaries throughout the university. We get about $500,000 every year from Min-State for infrastructure costs, but then they turn around and bill us for services that they provide, and we end up giving part of that back again. Institutional equipment is a grant program that all departments can request money from to pay for furniture and equipment. And we put in applications for that too. Actually, we had a meeting today, and we're putting in a proposal to get some matching grants to expand our esports program. So we participate in that whenever we can. Our computer store sells Dell, Microsoft, and Apple computers, as well as computer supplies, so we get revenue from that. SLA income, service level income. Some departments in the university come to us and ask us to provide services that we normally don't provide, and they pay us to do those services. So we not only do that for departments around the university, but we also provide services to the rest of the Minnesota State schools. So we provide services to those schools, and they pay us to provide those services. Over the past 2 years, there's been COVID money, federal money that we've had and used as the university shut down and all of the students had to go home and everybody had to work from home. And that money was used to support technology and programs to keep students learning with the highest quality of education that we possibly could do. And then to keep faculty and staff working when they were working from home. And then we used some of that money too for technology and services for like flexing classrooms so that when students come back and faculty were coming back to campus this year, that those that couldn't be on campus could continue to learn. So that was the COVID money. And then finally, tech fees. Tech fees are really directed to services for students. It's the technology that you have in classrooms, meeting rooms, and things like that, and support for that technology. So we'll be digging into that very shortly. If you look at our overall division budget, it's $13.3 million, and that's everything combined together. 40% of that comes from general fund, and 24% of that comes from tech fees, and the other part comes from income that we generate through service level agreements in the store. One thing that people want to know a lot about is, we get asked all the time, is just how much of our budget goes for salary and how much of it goes for stuff. So if you combine our budgets together, about 45% goes to salary and 55% of it goes for software equipment and things like that. But if you're just looking at, take out the service level agreement stuff and the money that because we have to buy computers and then turn around and sell them again, so if you take that out and just look at our tech fees and our general fund, it's probably about 60% salary and the rest of it goes to stuff. Okay, now we're going to just dig in and look into tech fees. Most of your tech fees pays for equipment, software, services in support of the classroom equipment. So audiovisual equipment, computer labs, the computers in the labs and the software around those computers, campus wide software agreements, and some help for teachers using technology in class or instructional designers. So that's the majority of where your tech fees goes. We also have about 17% last year was used for the Solutions Center for support for students. The red box on the bottom was 8% of tech fees, and a lot of that money went to start up the Esports program. And the blue area is my area, the infrastructure part. That was about 15% of your tech fees. A lot of that money went for software and software licensing and maintenance contracts. So if you put all of those cost centers together for tech fees and look at what kind of things tech fees paid for, there's about $200,000 is for miscellaneous supplies and equipment. That paid for things like network cabling, math print expenses, projectors, small access points, and things like that. Our biggest expense, almost $1 million, was for software licensing, software maintenance costs, and for software licensing maintenance costs and hardware maintenance. Another expense in green that's a pretty major expense for tech fees is about $630,000, and that's for our student health. I have to take a little while and talk about our students, because we employ probably between 80 and 100 students every year. And our students provide amazing, amazing services for us. It allows us to do services that we normally couldn't do. Our students provide things like help us run the division. We have students that help stream live events like this and sporting events. We have students that help with marketing. They record, produce, and direct videos for instructional use and for promotional use for the university. What other things we do? They support classrooms, classroom equipment, faculty in the classrooms if they're having problems with the technology. The Solutions Center provides support for students. And we even have students that are web developers. But we think that that's a really good match. Students pay tech fees, and then we employ the students, they provide service to students, and then when they graduate, they actually have their degree, and they have a couple of years of experience working for a professional organization. So we think that's a really good match for students. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, most of our students are international students that can't work off campus. So it really is a good match, we think, for tech fees. If you look at tech fees, which is the purple bars, that has been increasing over the last few years, and that's to keep up with demands. If you look at the gold bars, that's the actual number of students we have, and that has been slowly decreasing, like you heard in the last presentation, over the years. But the tech fee rate has been climbing steadily. And part of the reason, the green line is actually the revenue that tech fees has brought in. I'll look at this, I'll send this out so that you can see it a little closer, but along the way, we've added a lot of needs for technology at the university. We've had new buildings like 7700 France, Julius Sears, Presca, the Hubbard building, the dining center, the clinical science building, which has a ton of technology in it, and even the All Sports Dome. Along with the additional facilities that have been added to the university, it's been a lot more support, a lot more technology, a lot more software has been needed, as well as a lot more technology in the classrooms. The thing about technology is we buy it, but then we have to maintain it, and that sometimes is a very expensive part of managing technology, because it takes people to support it and maintain it and manage it. But once the technology reaches end of life, it has to either be replaced or we have to get rid of it. Replacing is, one thing I want to point out is about software. Typically you would buy a software package, and then you would have to pay 20% every year for maintenance. So that provides tech support, patches, and upgrades. But now software companies are changing their model. They're selling actually subscription for their software, which means that you have to pay maybe 100% of that purchase price, or maybe 50% of that, but you have to pay that every year. So software costs are going up dramatically. In some cases, there's software you have to pay the subscription, but then you have to pay 3% more every year for that software. So the software cost is really, really one of our largest growing expenses. If you compare tech fees between Minnesota State colleges and universities, you see that the spread is about the same and the average is about the same. Your tech fee right now is $11.50, and the cap on that tech fee is $12 per credit. But that doesn't really tell the whole story about tech fees, because MSU is banded in tuition and also fees. A lot of the other universities, it's not. So if you have a student that's taking 16 credits at each of these universities, what you'll see is the student that goes to St. Cloud State is actually paying $192 a semester for their tech fees. If you go to Winona, you also have to pay a semesterly lease for your laptop. So that adds another $485 to their tech fees. So students that go to Winona actually pay a whopping $607 a semester for their technology fee and laptop. Here at MSU Mankato, it's capped at $138 per semester. We will have an impact with the increase in student pay. And that impact for our students is going to be about $122,000. We also will be impacted by the projected decrease in student enrollment in the credit hours. Combined, that impact is going to be about $186,000, which ends up being about 63 cents less per credit next year. And we've been working with the Tech Fee Committee, and the Tech Fee Committee recommended that we keep the tech fee flat at $11.50. And IT Solution agrees with that too. We recognize everything going on in the world with the war, everything going on with the economy right now, increases in rent, food, entertainment, gas, and all the expenses that students have. So what we want to do is absorb the increases that we looked at so far and keep the tech fee this year at $11.50. Now, we will be coming back a year from now and asking students for an increase in tech fee, but for now we'd like to keep it flat. Why next year are we going to be coming in and asking for an increase in tech fee? Because we have a lot of things that are coming up, big expenses. Some of the things that we have to do this year, we have a couple of telepresence classrooms, which was 10 years ago, it was real high-tech audio-visual web conferencing technology, but that technology is end of life, and we have to convert those rooms over to FlexSync rooms with Zoom technology. Some other things that we're looking at too is we're doing a proof of concept, because Zoom can actually be our phone system. So we're doing that proof of concept right now, and we may be switching over next fall to using Zoom phone technology, and that's going to save the university some money. Some other big bills that we have coming up over the next couple of years, we have a bunch of servers that are end of life and have to be replaced. So those servers have to be replaced, and also all the storage that houses all of the student information has to be replaced. And those are pretty big ticket items. We're in the middle of a network upgrade right now. I call it our next gen network project. And what that, we have to replace over $1 million worth of network equipment. What that's going to provide is better security, better speed. It's going to position our network for the needs of the students in the future, and it's also going to make the network a lot more reliable. Along with that, we're also upgrading our wireless network, and we're going to have to accelerate that because student needs are growing all the time. Some other things that might be of interest to students are we want to work with the university to buy a rather expensive software package that will actually look at all the D2l courses and find out just how accessible they are to students. And if there are accessibility problems, the faculty can address those problems and help make their courses more accessible. Another thing that we want to do is expand open educational resources to make textbooks more affordable for students. Excuse me. And then we're looking at expanding our esports facility, because esports is exploding in popularity. And these are some of the things that we're doing and are going to be coming up. Some anticipated questions that we have. Is there a reserve for tech fees? And we don't have a reserve for tech fees. But our surpluses and deficits carry forward to the next year. But we don't have those surpluses or reserve. One other thing too is people wonder if all this money is going to us, to IT Solutions. And what we do with all the money that we get through a general fund and all of our other funding sources is we use that money to provide technology and services for the university. And this is technology to run the university and for students to use for teaching and learning. What we want to do is provide the best quality equipment and software and services for students. And we can't do everything that we're asked to do. If we had a lot more money, we'd be able to do so much more, but we can't. So we have to say no, and we have to live within what our budget will allow us to do and what our staffing and human resources will allow us to do. We do a lot more because we have our student help, and we continue to do more and more all the time. But we are looking at things too that we have to stop doing for retiring. That's the hard part, is retiring services. With that, thank you for your time, and I'll stand for questions.
Awesome. I will take my. We'll do it again after the questions. I will take my first question from Senator Roberts.
My first question is, why exactly is esports part of the IT division?
That's a good question because it really didn't fit into any academic program yet. But I just found out this afternoon that we may be adding a program for esports. So it's a way that we were asking about it, and we were having a hard time getting partnerships to do something like that. So we jumped in, we hired a coach, we came up with some funding money for it. We got a partnership with Dell, with Alienware Equipment. We scraped together some money and put together a facility over in the IT Solutions Center in the first floor of Wissink. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. You should go there and check it out. And we only have like 17 computers over there, but they're used all the time. And we have a lot of students that are actually coming to MSU because of the esports program. And it's really been successful when it's growing. And we just put in a grant request to try to get that facility increased in size and more computers so that we can expand the program.
Thank you. Senator Flynn?
Bravo on keeping the fee the same. I did have one question. You used the phrase South Campus.
Pardon me?
You used the phrase South Campus and, the adding fiber to it. What do you mean by South Campus?
Oh, that's all of the athletic and campus rec grounds to the south of Stadium Road.
Okay.
Thank you. Senator Spears?
You mentioned the D2l Accessibility Package.
Yes.
You said it'd be kind of costly. Do you have a certain number for that?
I think that software package is about $80,000 a year.
Senator Roberts?
My next question is, you said earlier in the presentation that you sometimes have to buy computers to immediately sell them. Why does it work that way? Or, why does that have to happen?
All right, when we, a lot of it is just pass-through cost. But when you look at the transactions, we actually have to buy the computers and then turn around and sell those computers. So buy a $2,000 computer and then you sell a $2,100 computer. That's kind of the way if you look at the transactions. That's why if you look at the revenue for the store, it looks like it's like $1.2 million or whatever it is. I'm not sure what that actual number is. But it's not like we're earning $1.2 million, but that's the total for having to buy that computer and then sell that computer.
Thank you. Senator Hashimoto?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I actually got the consultation as a member of technical committee, and recently we were reviewing some of the huge decrease in our budgets, but because of the consideration of like everything happening right now, and a lot of departments are actually lacking a fee significantly. So Brian worked really hard to actually make this happen, to not to raise the fee at this point, so that the university and students can focus on the other things. So I would like to appreciate that effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Senator Roberts.
When do you plan to start the D2l Accessibility Project?
That will probably more than likely take place like around the summer period into fall.
Thank you. Do I have any last questions? Any last questions? All right, at this point, let's clap for Brian. Thank you for joining us today, Brian. Moving on to the approval of consent agenda. Do I have any dissent on the approval of consent agenda? Dissent?
Yes.
Dissent. Would you like to talk on your dissent?
Yes. So, under Commission of Ethics and Standards, I do see my name over there. Usually, or you said last year, if someone is being sent over there, you're usually gonna give them a notice or like an email.
What? Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Process question, sorry.
There's a processing question. All right, Senator Osmond, did you say that you didn't receive an email?
Yes.
The email was sent out to you and the other senator this morning.
Okay, but usually last year or last semester you said there will be a heads up first or like a one-on-one talk before I do see my name in the agenda like that. I don't see that you're following your own words.
There wasn't a formal conversation, but there was a conversation with you and me that happened.
No.
So, go ahead.
I think I also reached out to you, Zahara, and asked if we could meet at some point, but I don't think I got a response.
No, you did get a response from me that we could meet, but I never heard back from you either.
I think you might be talking about a different time, because I'm talking about an instance where I was saying maybe we can meet to discuss why some issues that might have been coming up, so that is the one I'm referencing right now.
So just to clarify here, showing up on the ethics and standards is not a public, like a confirmation. So what would happen is why it's on standards is to notify that the senators in question have been requested to set up a meeting with the ethics and standards chair reviewing conduct that does not meet the Constitution and bylaws within student government. So it's not necessarily, and so this acts kind of like a trial almost, in that evidence would be presented, the senator who is set standards has the opportunity to refute that. So it's not saying that it's like something has been done wrong, it's just saying that the request has been made to set that meeting.
So this is a meeting for you to sit down with the standards chair and review the conduct. Does that explain?
Yeah.
Senator, I had a second from Senator Uzefa. Would you like to talk on your second for the dissent?
No, it's fine.
All right, I'm gonna open the floor for discussion.
Point of clarification?
Yes.
Is the phrasing Commission of Ethics and Standards in the Constitution somewhere, or can it be made a little more clear what it is? Because it looks almost like they were being appointed on the minutes, and that's kind of confusing.
That's what I also assumed was happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that could be different from here on out or something, if that's allowed.
We can do that.
Okay.
But normally, in this part of the agenda, when there is someone under the commission and Commission of Ethics and Standards, that means that they will be meeting with the chair and the people on the committee. Yes.
I might also add, we already did appoint a chair, so that already appeared.
Okay.
Yes, and that was under the appointments.
Like if we could put the word referral to in front of it or something.
Sure,
so it could be
but
clear
all,
what it is.
all appointments, any kind of appointments will be under the
Yeah.
appointments and not under anywhere else. Yes.
Point of clarification on this, if there is, say, the dissent that we've heard now, would we then vote on that
Yes.
consideration to remove them from that consideration?
Yes, we will be, we're on the discussion period right now, and after that, we will move to vote. Senator Novak?
Hypothetically, if we dissent to the approval of consent agenda, does that mean that these two senators are no longer sent to have a meeting with them?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
I don't think that's a.
No,
Yeah,
that's
so
not.
like, for this,
That just means you have to go through.
One second, let's talk to our advisor.
Okay.
so, yeah, so at this point, so a referral to standards wouldn't technically be something that should go on consent agenda because it would be whatever the ethics and standards folks would recommend that would then go on consent agenda.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so as much as I'm understanding right now, it's according to our bylaws, the chair can send a senator to ethics and standard to review, and then whatever they decide will come back and need an approval from the Senate. But right now, this is just for the senators to go and have a meeting with the chair of ethics and standards to talk about the issue.
Think of it this way as like a warning, or like a not like a warning, but like an
notification.
upcoming. Like so, in the future, you may see this come up. Yeah.
Point of order.
Yes.
Sorry. Granted what you just said, Emmy, then should it not be included on the consent agenda and that should be something that happens in private rather than placed on the consent agenda? So given the fact that that is the case, should we even be voting on this as a dissent or should it just be stricken?
President Stick?
I'm gonna just add that this is not anything new to student government. So anything that
Yeah.
is appearing here under
Yeah.
the ethics standard, this is not anything new that has not happened in past years. So I do understand some of the confusion, but this is just normal procedure.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Andy.
According to my knowledge, is when I have someone sent to ethics and standards, I believe I'm supposed to inform that, and I understood that I was supposed to put it down here.
It would be in like in your officer report that they would be sent, or that they've been sent over from my understanding.
All right.
In the past, no?
Yeah,
No.
because that's what I was told in my training.
I'm gonna defer to Kara on that one because she's a previous speaker.
Go ahead.
If it's in the consent agenda.
They're yielding to me. So, as previous speaker, we did put it in the consent agenda as a notification process. They also received an email that's separate. But this is just, it's just kind of a record keeping matter of saying that these people are going.
Again, public
That's all
record,
it
this
is.
is a public meeting that anyone can view, so we have to keep it transparent.
Right. So as a part of the consent agenda, even if we vote no for it, the meeting will still happen. But afterwards, whatever the ethics chair will decide will come back here to get added for an approval. But right now, this is just a meeting. So after this, do we still have a dissent and do we still would like to have a discussion and then vote on that? Or do we want to go back and approve the consent agenda? Dissent.
Technically, the names of your
Dissent.
Dissent.
So what's the discussion?
So we have to go through it line by line.
Yes.
Well, technically, like, it's happening, well, never mind. No, they can just
Motion.
proceed, yeah.
Motion,
Okay.
point of order.
Yes.
Actually, I'm gonna call for a 2-minute recess. Is
Do
there
I have a
Recess or
second?
caucus?
recess?
Second. Do I have a dissent? All right, we have a, how many?
2 minutes.
2 minutes recess.
7 o'clock.
Okay. I think we should
This
just
is not something that you can negotiate.
This is not
This
negotiable.
is an information process. You cannot dissent, no, I'm speaking. You cannot dissent to having your name being taken off. That doesn't,
Yeah,
that doesn't.
so like, at that point, you like,
You can dissent to the other things that are on here, but you cannot, that's not.
Robert, we're on a 2
So
minute
it's like
recess, so
saying,
can you mute us?
no, I don't wanna have, like, no.
Yeah.
You have to.
yeah, so.
Awesome. All right, so after the discussion, if there is anything that you would like to change on the agenda in part of the wording, that's something that will go back to our bylaws and have to be changed on our bylaws. That cannot be changed right now by just a motion. So if there is any dissent other than the Commission of Ethics and Standards, which is something that if we want better understanding, we can talk about it again. That's again a change in bylaws, not a motion. But if there is a dissent,
I have a question if that's okay before we can proceed.
You can finish talking first.
Senator Hawk, I'm gonna have to take your questions later on. So if there is any dissent other than the dissent on the Commission of Ethics and Standards, because that's not dissent-able, that's just a referral to go and have a meeting. If there is any dissent other than that on the consent agenda, please say it now. Do I have a dissent? Do I have a dissent? All right, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to the officer reports. I'm gonna start with President Stiff.
All right, y'all. So I have quite a bit in my officer report this week. So right next door to us, there is a public safety meeting between Mankato police officers and then diverse students on campus and other student leaders. So I think that might be ending right now, but I got to pop in for like a few minutes and it was a really great meeting and I'm really excited about what's gonna come out of it. During this meeting, they're also going to be discussing Turn Signal, which is an on-call attorney service app. So basically, when you're pulled over, that you would turn on the Turn Signal app. An attorney would be right there with you, guiding you through the process. They don't have to say anything if you don't want them to, but just for your protection and the protection of the safety officer that's stopping you, this is an option that the university is considering bringing to Mankato. So if you want to learn more about that, hit me up or Kenneth Reed. We can talk to you more about that as well. Over last week, which was spring break, I took a trip with 6 other Students United student body presidents, and we went to Washington, D.C. to advocate with some legislators about higher education funding. So during this trip, I advocated for an expansion of TRIO services, which many students in Minnesota and all across the country use. We advocated for doubling the Pell Grant, which again, I'm a recipient of the Pell Grant, so I was definitely in favor of that. And then we also advocated for an expansion of OERs. And so during our trip, honestly, they passed the omnibus bill that included like half of what we were there to advocate for, so that was pretty ironic and cool at the same time. Next, Banquet. At the end of the year, of course, we invite all of our leaders and student senators to the Banquet, so I invite you guys to come to that as well. We'll be giving out awards, we'll be making jokes against administration. Please, it's going to be a great time. You guys can help us with the jokes if you want. Yes. Next is election. So I would really like to know who my predecessor is going to be. I'd like to know who I'm supposed to be talking with. So I haven't heard too much talks about who's running, but if you are interested, please talk to me. We are preparing for the next line of leadership so I can be able to pass this off. And yeah, that's literally our terms end in a month, y'all. So if you're considering, I would hurry and consider and get people to run with you. We're having an extension of the Leadership Awards. So again, student government gives out scholarships each year with Barnes & Noble. Please apply, y'all. We need some more applicants and we want to give this money away. So please, if you're a student leader, consider applying for that. So budget season, during a committee today, we got a chance to talk about budget a little bit. I'll be pulling some senators to talk more about some of our philosophies going into next week. So hopefully we can make it an efficient and quick meeting. Last but not least, graduation is coming up. Again, we give out graduation cords at the end of the year to those who are graduating. I want to add that you have to apply to get these graduation cords. There'll be a form going up on Involve You for that. But student government is not just a participation award, so that is subject to review of cabinet. Whatever graduation cords you are applying to get, we have to review that and make sure that you have been doing your due diligence as a senator this year, and most of you all are fine for that. So just remember to apply for that if you are graduating this year. Any questions for me?
Senator Hansen, you can ask a question now.
The campus security, they're involved in that as well.
Yes, next door also campus security is involved with that public safety meeting, so thank you for that.
Senator Darlington.
I was just going to ask because my understanding of the TRIO program is that it is just for in and out, like domestic students. So and you went to Washington D.C., did you advocate for any like financial opportunities that could possibly benefit international students other than the TRIO program?
Yes, so I'm glad you asked. When we talked about expansion of funding and things like that, we also talked about emergency grants and how a lot of times international students are cut out of these conversations when we're talking about her funding and things like that. And so Tina Smith actually informed us that she's going to be sponsoring a bill to expand emergency grants for international students, and that's something we really pushed her on and we asked her to continue doing. Of course, she's going to face some opposition for that, but we're asking her to continue doing that. As we know, TRIO usually is limited to domestic students. So thank you for asking about that.
Thank you. Senator Wink?
So just quickly, I just wondering if we have a date set for the banquet, just as new words. Will it be during like summit time or what are we doing?
Yeah, we do have a date. Did you know that?
Yeah, let me pull it back up here.
Just, yeah, for good scheduling and working on a part-time job. So.
Thank you. In the meantime, while she's looking for that, do we have another question for everyone?
Any further questions?
I do. I don't know if you saw my hand raised.
Senator Hoffwood, you can go now.
I was just wondering, would President Stiff send an email about applying for the cords, or should we just look it up like you said?
I can do that. I still have to create the form, so there's no rush for you to apply right now, but I will create that form and then send that out to you guys once it's created.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
The banquet is Thursday, April 28th starting at 4:30 p.m. in the CSU ballroom.
Awesome. And then once again, what I can do is create an invite for that, and then invite all of you so that it's on all of your calendars. Senator Roberts?
When is that deadline for elections?
After it.
I'm gonna talk about that stuff a little later.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have any last questions? All right. Thank you, President Stiff. We're gonna move on to Vice President Sorisol.
Perfect. I have 3 things for you. First of all, former Senator Muhammad reached out and mentioned that the Indo-Bangla night is happening on March 26th from 5 to 8. I encourage you all to check that out. There's options to volunteer and to get tickets. The next thing is Dean Wallace reached out and asked us to mention that the University Research Month is happening in the month of April. So there's going to be lots of events going on for that. You can go to research.mnsu.edu for a list of all of that information. And then finally, I have a few dates. The campus dietitian is looking for volunteers. So if you want to volunteer with like a trail mix bar, smoothie bikes, or there's one other thing, it's just a couple hours and you do get a free dining center meal ticket. So if you're interested in that, the dates are March 21st and then April 25th and 28th. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email and you can score a free meal ticket. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Vice President Sorisol? Any questions over Zoom? Senator Hoffwood, is this your hand raised from last time? I'm gonna assume so.
Yeah, it is. I can just press.
Yes. Any last questions? All right. Thank you, Vice President Sorisol. We are gonna move on to my report. First of all, I hope you all had a great spring break. We're back in school, unfortunately. Last Saturday, there were free hockey game tickets. I went to the hockey game with some of my friends. We had a great time. So if you have an opportunity, I don't know if they're doing hockey for the championship this Saturday. I don't know if there any free tickets are left or not, but it was a great time. So you guys should all go. We won we scored 8, they scored 1. It was a great time. Next is your office hours are due next week by Friday. If there is anyone who needs, I can send reminders again. I can try to do several ways so that you're not forgetting to submit your office hours. If there's any problems with the office hours under like, oh, I'm having a lot of exams this week, can I please do less hours, because it's better for me to know that you're going to be doing less hours than me to see that you only did 2 hours for 2 weeks. So please communicate it out every time. Other than that, attendance in these meetings is mandatory. If you are not attending, please have a proxy. If you're not gonna have a proxy and not gonna be attending, that would again be something that we're gonna have to consider for to be sent to ethics and standards. If there is a commitment that you made somewhere else, you also made a commitment here. So please make sure that you are coming to our long budget meeting and all the other rest of the Senate meetings. If you need a memo, you can reach out to our office manager, Amber, and she can give you a memo for a long budget meeting, but please get excused for any other commitments you have on that day. Zoom will not be counted as your attendance if you haven't emailed me the reason as to why you are on Zoom, and if you haven't received a confirmation from me that yes, you're good to go to be on Zoom. I have said this over and over again, and to senators in person and in my report several times in several meetings. So at this point, if you are on Zoom without letting me know that you're gonna be on Zoom or without having a valid reason, I'm not counting that as being present. Next thing is, yeah, I think that's all I have for my report before I go on to the very last thing. Do you guys have any questions for me? Senator Hashimoto?
I just wanted to clarify a little quick. Didn't we have an office hour submission before spring break?
Yes.
I didn't receive any email. I just wondered, like.
The week before we had the office hour submission, but if you were not able to submit,
Can I just submit
you can submit it right now.
Okay,
Yeah. Or you can submit it with like at the end of this week by Friday.
Okay.
Senator Flynn?
Will there be food at the budget meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
We are ordering food. We will take a break in the middle too. Banal, do you mind if I add something about the attendance thing?
Yes.
So we are aware that Zoom in some ways is really great because it opens up some versatility as far as like ability to connect, but unfortunately there has been a pattern of where senators will, or folks will be doing other things actively while on Zoom. And not only is that really disrespectful for your peers who are active and present in the meetings, it's also really disrespectful to your constituents because you're meant to represent them. And so just generally speaking, it's better to be present and be engaged. And if you're not able to do that through Zoom, which is what we're currently seeing, things really have to change as far as like, or you should really be thinking about like, why are you involved with Senate? Because ultimately, like, you're here to represent students. And so if you're not willing to commit the attention to a 2-hour meeting once a week, just keep that in mind, so.
Yeah. And just to clarify a little bit more on that, that's one of the commitments that we all made starting this year when we were all starting as a Senate. Zoom was an option for if you're traveling really far and you can't make it back. I'm not gonna pressure you to come back to be here in person. That's a valid reason. Or if you're sick or if there is a valid reason for it, you have always been getting excused for Zoom, but Zoom was never an option as a part of being comfortable. So if there is no further questions, I am going to move on to the Dean of the Day. We have Dean Corley with us here today.
Thank you very much for having me today. I just want to provide an update on some things that I think will be of interest to student government. Many of you might not know this, but the management portfolio for the former Dean of Library Services has changed over the past 3 years. And so I just wanted to provide an update on where we are with that. So the new title for that position is the Dean of Library and Learning, and it incorporates an attempt to foster further collaboration between library services and a variety of other learning services, including our TRIO programs, our Center for Academic Success, our MAV Pass, our undergraduate research, honors program, learning communities, and university fellowship offices. Basically what we're doing is we're providing kind of purposeful scaffolding to enhance the student learning experience that in ways that complement your major fields of study, your other experiences on campus, in hopes that we will foster enhanced retention more quick, completion towards degree, and also purposely with a focus towards changing some of the predictable racial disparities that exist in some of our student outcomes. Towards that end, we have established a leadership team. We have created our draft mission, vision, and goals for the organization. We have divided up into work groups that are studying how the organization could proceed moving forward. And there are 3 work groups this spring that are working across the organization. One of the work groups has the goal of providing a vision for purposeful collaborative service points, both physically on the main floor of the library, but also digitally online as well. The second work group is providing a vision for embedding our services across the academic colleges and areas so that they're more easily accessible to students and faculty. And the third work group is providing a vision for enhancing the student worker experience, because we have among the largest number of student workers at the university within the organization. So I just wanted to provide you with an update there. As far as some of the individual areas within library services, we have continued to work towards enhancing our spaces, our services, and our collections, and we're having some really good student collaboration. With that, we are moving, as many of you know, the music collection out of the Performing Arts Center and back into the main floor on the east side of the main library. That move is expected to occur in the 2 weeks following final exams, upon which there'll be a major construction project in the Performing Arts Center in the former space. We're also enhancing the southwest corner of the library. That's the area to the left of the circulation desk when you walk in, which has become, of late, very attractive for students to study. And we're going to be continuing to provide some furniture enhancements there for individual and group study. As far as our collections, we have some new additions that you might want to check out. One of them is called Flipster, and it basically provides access that is very akin to flipping through magazines, and has some of the most popular magazines available. And you can use that on your iPad or your computer. We also have new subscriptions that are be of interest to business students: the Minnesota St. Paul Business Journal, ProQuest One Business Services, the Sports Business Journal as well. We've added over 1,200 videos with a PBS video collection you can access anytime you'd like. And we also have a new service that was requested specifically out of our nursing and allied health and nursing programs called Up to Date, which provides quick reference resources on the spot for nurses who are working, and it's accessible through one's cell phone. In other news, I just wanted to give you an update that we've made some temporary enhancements to enhance accessibility while we await some longer-term solutions. We know this has been a discussion this year. The conference room, just beyond the circulation desk, straight ahead on the north side of the building on the main floor, is now our accessible alternative MavPod space. We've also worked with our staff to make sure that they understand procedures and can guide people accordingly. We're revising our internal policies with an accessibility lens, and we're reviewing signage to reflect current changes in the building as well. Those of you who have been active in increasing awareness of textbook affordability know that this is something of concern to you in the library, and IT Solutions and Academic Affairs more broadly, and Barnes & Noble have been active partners in trying to find affordable textbook solutions. What we do know is that there's no one single solution to a very complex macro problem that's well beyond our university, but what we have determined is that we believe that there's a 3-pronged approach towards reducing textbook costs for the long term. One is to advocate for an enhanced use of the already existing Maverick textbook rental program. That use, quite honestly, is down. It's down for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the pandemic, increased use of online courses, students who are increasingly off campus to access their courses, for example. These texts are physically available in the library, and so use of that program is in decline over the last 2 years. We would like to change the trajectory of that. The second prong is enhanced use of already existing library resources. We invest a lot of money on your behalf and the faculty's behalf every year to develop resources, and we'd like to be more purposeful in seeing them associated in the classes and being used in the courses. And the third approach is increased adoption of open educational resources. And we've worked really hard to increase awareness of this as well. I'd like you just for a minute to take out your phones, if that's okay, and go to your, is that legal?
Yeah.
To go to your search engine and just put MNSU library in there, and I want to show you something that you can do that's been created over the past 2 years. If you go to the Library Services website and you scroll down, you'll see 3 gold bars. First one is databases, second one is class and subject guides, and the third one is textbooks and course reserves. So if you click on that, you'll see 352 different courses. And if you click on those courses, you will see the available options for students to access textbooks either through the textbook reserve program or through the library collection. So what the librarians have done is they've worked through the textbook list and they have attempted to work with faculty and to the best of their ability find alternative approaches to the purchase of a textbook. This system will never be 100% perfect for everyone. It will never solve all of the problems, but it is an important option, and what I would recommend is an increased awareness and practicing of using this tool so that you can see that there are potential options available for you. And a meeting with a librarian faculty member at the reference desk can help you as well. There are significant obstacles to reducing textbook costs, not the least of which is the vast majority of textbooks that are offered by major textbook publishers like Cengage and those types of things, we are unable to provide extensive access to. We can't buy those to access for students. The publishers simply wouldn't sell those licenses, and even if they could, there's no way that anybody at a university would be able to afford that. But I think what you'll see here, especially over the last 3 years, is a real attempt to try to move towards workable solutions that can be improved over time to help you in your affordability journey as you work through your college educations.
Thank you.
A couple of...
Go ahead.
Am I timed out?
Go ahead. You can.
Okay. A couple of brief announcements. We're continuing to expand MavPass as finances are available for you. We know that it's an extremely popular new program. We are preparing a Mcnair grant proposal to expand our TRIO services to create 2, if it were successful, we would create 2 cohorts of junior and senior underrepresented and first generation students to allow them education that helps them better guide them towards a graduate degree. And then lastly, there's been some major changes in the past 2 years with our undergraduate research program, where we've recognized that we haven't had as much participation or awareness of undergraduate research with first and second year students and underrepresented students. And so we have shifted resources and funds to encourage cohorts of students to be able to work under a faculty mentor, even as freshmen and sophomores, and be able to produce research that can be presented, for example, at our undergraduate research symposium. And we're pretty proud of those efforts so far. So I'll be available to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you. I will take my first question from Senator Flynn.
Hi. I've been wondering this for a while. Has the library been considering a replacement for the ProQuest citation management software that we used to get, or?
ProQuest Citation Manager, we have free citation managers now.
Okay.
And so those are available. We had to shift out of that subscription.
Yeah.
And we have a free version of a citation manager system which is available to the campus community.
Okay.
And I would recommend that you would go to the reference desk.
Yeah, yeah.
Speak with a faculty librarian and they can show you how to use that. Yeah, we moved away from that, I believe, I want to say 2 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Senator Nowak?
Yeah, I wanted to circle back to the accessibility that you had talked about.
Yeah.
I know that one thing that's been buzzed and talked about a fair little bit, and I don't know if this is exactly something that you have control over with the library, but is the tunnel system that goes beneath the library and keeping that open and accessible even when the library is closed, so that people with mobility issues, especially during the winter seasons, are able to move themselves between that area without having to go outside through potentially unplowed and treacherous walkways.
No,
I was wondering if that was something that had been considered.
It certainly has been under discussion. Mark and I and security have talked about better coordinating when the doors are open. So yeah, I would say that it's been under discussion. And we can look into it further.
Thank you. Senator Roberts?
Do you think the library would be open to recommending to at least professors to boycott organizations such as Cengage that do things that prevent OERs from being implemented accessibly in the library?
So I think we might be conflating a couple of issues. I'll answer your question in a couple of steps. First, I don't believe the library faculty, I can't speak on their behalf. I know Professor Klink is here. She frequently attends. She's here virtually. I don't think the library faculty, as a group, would have a position about the use of Cengage textbooks. My understanding is those are faculty prerogatives in terms of the individual courses that they teach, that they have an ability to choose the kind of course materials that they would like. Secondly, my understanding is that, I may be wrong, but that Cengage as a corporation isn't opposed to OER in particular. There are freely available OER textbooks. A good example is through OpenStax. We're an OpenStax associated institution. It's really up to faculty members to determine what approach they would like to take for their educational solutions. And I think we see our role as kind of building the capacity and awareness of faculty members and students to consider what we believe to be viable alternatives to expensive course books.
Thank you. Due to the shortage of time, I'm going to strike out the speakers list at this point. If you have any further questions, please reach out to Dean Corley via his email. If you want his email, reach out to me. Thank you so much for sharing all the information with us today, Dean Corley. All right, I'm going to move on to our center reports. We have 4 center reports today. I'm going to be allowing 2 minutes and 30 seconds for each center report. Just again, we are running very long with our time here. But I'm going to start with Senator Chimezie, and once he's done with his report, I will open the floor for questioning.
Quick as possible. So my report is about my project basically, and it's going to take place on April 11th from 12 to 3 p.m. at CSU 2, 53, 54, and 55. So the name of our project is going to be Student Meets Global Business. Thanks to Riley, she picked out the name. But mainly my project is about just bringing students to global business, trying to give them just a taste of what it is to do business outside, or have like an idea of what doing business is outside of the U.S. and just globally. So I've picked out 10 different countries, and I did this by meeting with Mustafa. Mr. Mustafa, he was at the Kearney Center. So he gave me a list of countries that have the most students in business. That's majors in accounting, finance, international business, management, and marketing. And the 10 countries I got were Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Ivory Coast, Korea, Japan, Nepal, Nigeria, Canada, Pakistan, and the US. So I'm gonna have different, so these countries that I listed out are students in Mankato basically, and there's gonna be a representative for each country. So each representative is most likely to be an international student, and when they represent their country in my project, they're going to get volunteer points, which is going to be given, which helps them with their scholarship that the school provides. And I'm going to reach out to Hashmi Anam and Turgay Gabelli, who are also going to reach out to the students in international business and also business classes about the project, and also offering them 5 points each to attend my project. And it's basically going to be just very easy, like a meet and greet, just come and learn something about a different country. You have questions related to like language, greetings, just practical etiquette, and how to go about business in that country. And that's all I have for you today.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Great project. Do I have any questions for the Senator? Senator Pino?
Yes, so you said that the students that you were getting were from countries who had the most students in marketing? Is that what you said?
No, so like in the College of Business, the different courses, basically like the accounting, finance, and stuff like that. So like we did like, there was like a graph, or basically like just the stats on it, on like the students. And so what I did was I picked out the most students in the College of Business that had that so basically the most students in different countries. So I did this because I felt like it makes the project like better and bigger, so like more people could come and participate and try to understand, and more people could also give feedback to like domestic students. And if that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers my question. A comment on top of that, has it ever run through your mind that maybe getting students from countries that have very low numbers of students in those kinds of educational programs, so that way you could increase the amount of students that would participate in such academic activities?
Do you remember phrasing?
Can I have a second?
You can have a second.
I know what you're asking.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Have you considered having students who are like maybe the only person from their country there, instead of the person or the countries with the most people?
I actually did not think. I didn't think of that, to be honest. But I just thought of 10 countries, the most students. I just thought about the numbers and just making it a very successful project. That's Any other questions?
Senator Darlington.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like the same question. I was just going to ask, so people who are not pursuing a major in business, can they be part of your project?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And also like answering Senator Pina and I'm so sorry.
Senator Flynn.
Senator Flynn.
It's okay, I'm going to be gone soon.
So this project is going to take place in like about 3 weeks, and so far I only have like 5 representatives for these out of these 10 countries. So if I'm not able to get the complete 10, I'm definitely going to look at the countries with lesser numbers to just make it successful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to Senator Hoffwood. She is here with us on Zoom. Senator Hoffwood.
Hi, so my speaker report is based on me trying to find a better way to help with students with disabilities, since we had that issue that happened to that student. So I've been talking with my hall director, because we also have a student in Julius Sears, where I'm a CA at, that does have a disability, and she has a wheelchair that she actually, it's like electric, so like she can't actually like just get out of it and just try to move by herself in a way that the other girl could have. So I've been talking to my hall director, finding ways on what we can do to help. I've also spoke with that student, and she's told me that she hasn't had an issue with security coming to her when there was a fire drill. I also am planning on talking to Residential Life on that issue as well. I also did some research on like
Senator Hoffwood, can I ask if the sound coming from your end?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Could you mute it?
No, 1 second. Is this ring sound like a ping sound for a message coming from your end?
I don't have any ping sounds.
All right. Can I request anyone on Zoom who might be unmuted and we're hearing a sound of a message? If I can just request them to mute themselves, and Senator Hoffwood, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I also did some research, and it was saying, especially on our website, that you're supposed to have a plan with your hall director and the people in your residency to make sure that you get out of the building. And then it also talked about how you should discuss that plan with also like the fire safety. And then also when I went onto a website that talked about the National Fire Protection Association, it did say that you should review these plans also with the fire department, and I don't know if those steps are being taken place, and so that's what I'm working on to make sure that they are, so we don't have a situation like this again. And especially since I'm the community advisor, we want all the students to get out safely, so that's what I've been working on.
Thank you, Senator Hoffwood. Do I have any questions? Any questions? All right, thank you. Moving on to Senator Osman.
All right, can you hear me? Thank you, Madam Speaker. So one of the projects I've been working on was to bring back the enterprise car rental service that we had.
Osman, can you?
That we had before.
Thank
Right.
you.
Maybe that's better. That we had before COVID, they had to discontinue due to COVID. And John, before he left, he emailed them, and I'm not sure if they got back to him or not, but they did get back to me, and they said that they do not intend to come back this semester or the summer. But however, there's a possibility that they want to come back in the fall, next semester. And they said that they would like to expand beyond 2 cars. They used to have 2 cars before COVID. And then the issue that they had, or the reason why they want to expand, is because there was a high demand for it. Usually you used to have a wait list. I remember when I was a freshman and my car broke down, some days I'll be able to get it right away. Some days there's a wait list, and I'll be able to use the car until, I don't know, a week or 2 later. So I'm really looking forward, because I do really want to see that one come back, especially our international students do want to see this back, because most of them have license, but they don't have a car here yet. So yeah, and then the other thing is that we was working on SAC for the last 2 months. We were hearing budget presentation. That took a lot of time. We came and presented to you, me and Douglas, last week. So I'm glad that this is partially out of the way, and with CSU budget also being presented this week, that was also something we were working on. So yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Senator Osman? Any questions? All right, Senator Osman, thank you. Last on my list, I have Senator Pina.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. So I've had a couple things on my agenda. I've been working with Senator Darlington, trying to work on international students insurance policies. Word has came back. Senator Darlington gave me the word about a week and a half ago that it is a problem that it has been brought up in other schools by other students also. It's a bigger problem than we first thought, so we are waiting for something to happen that is outside of the bounds of our school specifically. Other than that, I'm working on PR and marketing, so we're trying to figure out a skit trying to articulate the relationship between employees and employers and the possible exploitation that is happening between that. For SAC, we're going to continue today that we did last time. We had the vacancy election amendments that were cut short, so we'll be talking about that later. Me personally, my personal project it doesn't really have a name or a direction. However, it has to do with finances and what students are paying in order to fund the school. So what I thought is, and I'm going to be doing this tomorrow and the next day, I want to set up a table between school or the campus and the free parking lot. That way, as all the students who are off campus, and I am a off-campus senator, as they're leaving the school, going to their cars, hopefully we get them on a good day and they can stop and talk to us and we can tell them about the budget. We can get maybe even a small vote as people are walking by just on a piece of paper. Would you or would you not like your tuition to increase? And by that we could get a survey of off-campus students, which is my constituency. I have invited the other off-campus senators to join me in that. I feel like the more people we have, the more voices we're able to connect with, the more minds we're able to take at. And then, I mean, I guess right now I'd like to invite any other senator who has time tomorrow or the next day from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Just somewhere, I don't have a designation yet. I'm just going to be sitting out there with a table and a couple chairs. Bring your own chair and bring your own voice. I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Senator Flynn?
I love the idea. I'm surprised it hasn't occurred before. One concern I have, the way you ask that question will very much influence the answer you get. If you ask, do you want to increase your tuition? Of course, everyone's going to answer no, because that's the obvious answer. But if you, yeah, it requires a little bit of nuance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Senator T. Schaefer?
Just a location idea, I would do it by that stoplight, kind of by Caribou. Because then, as people are waiting for the light to turn, you could get them.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Good thinking. Senator Wing?
So this is actually the first I've heard of it, but I will gladly join you, and I will actually provide drinks for anybody that wants to come. I'll bring soda, water, whatever you like. So.
There we go. Senator Roberts?
Are you going to angle it at all in terms of the parking? Because I know originally, earlier in the year, you were talking about parking elements. So are you going to angle any of it in terms of like need to fix parking as well?
That wasn't on my mind. It was going to be specific budget.
Okay.
Like, I mean, obviously that might be part of it. We could, I wouldn't be opposed to diving into that conversation, but it's not the main goal.
Do I have any last questions? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our next business item, which is vacancies. Once again, vacancies is paused until our budget season, but we'll have 2 weeks left afterwards, and we will open that back up. If you have any candidates who you would like to recommend, please encourage them to apply. The vacancies are College of Allied Health and Nursing, College of Arts and Humanities, College of Education, College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Graduate Studies Senator, Off-Campus Senator, and other Off-Campus Senator, Res Life Senator, and another Res Life Senator. Moving on to new business, we do not have any new business for today. Moving on to old business, we have the vacancy election operating procedures. We are gonna start back up where we left off last week. The updated amended resolution was emailed out to everybody. And at this point, we're gonna start from on the discussion on the amendment that we were talking about. And I can say that amendment just to remind to everybody. Again, this was emailed out to everybody. Subsection B remains in place to protect the equity of candidates, however, allows subsection B to be adjusted to allow for additional follow-up questions for a specific candidate. Opening the discussion period now, starting with Senator Dustin.
I want a motion.
Yes, state that.
So initially, if I am correct, you stated that at most we only have more than 2 senator reports in a day.
Huh?
What?
Like at some point you were telling us that we need to sign up because we don't want to have more than two senators report in a day.
That is another discussion which I will take after we're done talking on the resolution.
All right, no, I just wanted to make a motion to have a postponement of this discussion because we have had 4 senators report today, and we already have 6. We've already gone over the time for our meeting.
So
and this
that
is going to be a long discussion.
that happened because I wanted all the senators to sign up earlier so that we don't have more than 2. After requests on several weeks over and over again, when I did not have senators sign up, when I was requesting, we were losing each week. So when senators did not sign up, I had to make a deadline, and then at that point, I signed senators up that were left. So then, in that case, we did not end up with 2 senator reports. We ended up with more senator reports for the day. That was, again, it was a request. It wasn't a requirement. It was a request from my side to not have our meetings run longer. Is because I was requesting everyone to sign up so that we don't have more than 2. But that wasn't a mandatory thing.
May I still motion to have this discussion during this meeting? So motion to postpone discussion to table at next meeting.
That would be 2 weeks.
Are you motioning to table this discussion?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna remind everybody that next week is our long budget meeting, just budget discussion meeting, and then afterwards we are having another on March 31st. Do we have
March 30th? We also have budget.
Yes. So the next 2 meetings are going to be long because we're having long budget discussions and then voting. So after that, if you still would like to table that, I'm just going to ask if you have a second and then.
Right.
All right. Would you like to motion to table this?
Right.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a dissent?
Dissent.
All right. Since we had a dissent, we're gonna go on to the discussion period for Senator Dustin's.
Point of order.
Yeah.
We need
yes.
to vote on that.
We're gonna go to the discussion period and then vote on that.
We need to
because
vote
it's a
on the
motion.
table.
Yeah, we're discussing the
That's what
table.
we're
Oh, I'm
discussing
sorry.
the table.
Apologize.
Point of order.
Would
you like to withdraw your motion to help expedite?
In order to
things?
save time, would you like to withdraw your motion now that you have seen the support?
No. I mean, we can vote on it.
All right, so then according to the procedure, I'm gonna open the floor for discussion. If we don't have any discussion points, we will move on to voting on Senators Dustin motion to table this. Do I have any discussion points? All right, voting on Senator Dustin's motion. All in favor to table this discussion on to next week? All in favor? 1, 2, all 3.
You said to next week, you mean to the next available?
Not next week, I think we don't have.
Next week we're suspending all business.
Can we table it that far?
That's when it would have to be tabled.
To the next
So
old
like
business,
2
which would be
weeks, right?
the 2 weeks after,
Yeah.
because we're suspending it, so yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
'cause
so then
at
that would
point-
essentially go more than a week.
Yeah, so it would be tabled until the first meeting in April.
All right. That's like 3 weeks. Now that we had a confusion, I'm gonna give all of you another chance to vote. All in favor to table this discussion until the first meeting in April after the budget season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. The motion unfortunately did not pass. We are going back into the discussion period of the amendment. In discussion, once again, the amendment in discussion is subsection B remains in place to protect the equity of candidates, however, allow subsection B to be adjusted to allow for additional follow-up questions for a specific candidate. At this point, do I have any discussion points? Senator Roberts.
In committee, I believe we've resolved this. As far as I am aware, President Stiff, you would be withdrawing this and then re-proposing the amendment that we discussed it, so I yield to President Stiff.
Yeah. Can you pull up that language, please?
Yep, I got it.
So I am rescinding my amendment from earlier and then putting forth a new one.
Second.
Once you read that up.
Hasn't even read it yet.
Okay, so subsection B, it would essentially be altered to say, questions must be based on qualifications and not in opposition with the preamble of the student government constitution. Any initial questions asked to the candidate must be asked to each candidate. However, follow-up questions do not need to be asked of all candidates. However, any candidate who wishes to answer the additional question has the opportunity to do so.
And that is what I'm putting forward.
All right. And this is going on to the third paragraph of the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a dissent? No dissent? All right, this motion is passed. All right, now we are going back to our motion with the new amendment. We're gonna discuss on the motion as a whole. Senator Roberts.
I move to the previous question.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Do I have a dissent? No dissent? All right. So then in that case, we are moving to vote on the resolution.
The amendment.
Sorry,
No.
moving to
Resolution.
vote on the resolution which is amended because we already voted on the amendment. All right. All in favor to pass this resolution? It's a clear yes. All right, the resolution is passed. Moving on to announcements. Senator Flynn?
I got a big one for y'all. Usually I'm in front of you complaining about internet or housing or food or something, or making fun of myself being old. The form for the elections is open now. You can fill it out now if you wish. It's on presence. It would be great if some people filled it out tonight because there'll be a big email blast going out about it to the student body, and I want to make sure if there's any last minute kinks they get worked out. But it is live now, and so it's technically available March 17th, but it's available now. I just won't look at them until tomorrow, so technically it won't, yeah. Some other important dates to keep in mind. March 22nd at 2 and March 28th at 11 will be rules readings. You don't worry about writing all this down. An email's gonna be blasted out about it with all of this stuff. March 25th, begin campaigning. March 28th is the filing deadline for the president and vice presidential candidates. The next week we will be having the debate / discussion, depending upon how many candidates there are. And April 4th is the filing deadline for all other candidates. The election will be taking place April 11th and 12th from 8 a.m. on that Monday to 6 p.m. on that Tuesday. We're using the new tool that everyone played around with in the Student Affairs Committee, and yeah, it'll be fun. Are there any questions for me about it, about the process or anything? Yes.
Is there a question from you, Senator Roberts?
Yes. My question is, did the problem that I had get resolved?
Yes.
Cool.
Would you like to state that for the Senate?
Yes. The problem I had was I kept on entering in my information, but it did not acknowledge the information.
This was beta testing the election app, just for.
Yes.
Thank you.
There was an issue with propagation of up-to-date credentials from the min-state thing. It got figured out.
Thank you.
I don't know the exact words.
Senator Wing?
Oh, just another announcement, not a question.
Okay. Do I have any further questions for Senator Flynn? All right, thank you, Senator Flynn. Senator Wing?
So as some of you may know, I used to do some work with Congressman Hagedorn, who sadly passed away last month. I did hear from his campaign manager last night, and his wife is actually going to be running for his seat in the special election, and she has actually decided to come to our university next week and address the Turning Point USA students. If that is something that would interest you, you're welcome to come, 7 p.m. right here in Nickerson Conference Room, CSU 238.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Senator Wing? Any questions? Thank you, Senator Wing. Do I have any further announcements?
I got one, two.
Emmy has got 2 announcements. You can make 2 announcements.
Oh. Yeah, so first thing I just want to reiterate, if like next week you do need to be here in person, like don't do it over Zoom. Really, Zoom is only meant to be if you're sick or are not feasibly able to travel to campus. It's going to be a long meeting. Bring snacks, bring water. We will feed you. Let us know if you have dietary restrictions. The other thing that I wanted to just kind of reiterate as well is just remember that when we're in meetings, the speaker is the one who's controlling the flow of conversation. So be mindful not to try and jump in on stuff and allow her to fully address if there are questions or discrepancies. So I know there's enthusiasm to help, and sometimes it can get a little frazzled if that happens. So yeah.
Thank you to our advisor. Moving on, do I have any last announcements? Any last announcements? All right, moving on to roll call.
Motion.
Please state that.
Waive the roll call.
Second.
Do I have a dissent? All right, the roll call is waived. I adjourn this meeting at 6:24 p.m.
I just wanted to go through that.